This is the Cal 101 podcast on Cape Atlantic Live. Here's your host, Nick Kosko.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cal 101 podcast right here on Cape Atlantic Live. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me today is Mainland basketball head coach Dan Williams. Coach, thanks for joining me as we are now officially into basketball season. I feel like football just ended. Well, it kind of just did, but right around the corner, it's basketball. You guys were prepping behind the scenes. Scrimmages coming up on Monday. You guys opened the season at home against Bridgeton on December 14th. So officially 2 weeks away at the time of this recording, of course. So pleased to be with you on the program this evening. What has the preseason been like so far? Are you ready for the season? I'm sure you guys are ready to really turn up a notch after a successful 2022-2023 campaign.
Yeah, well, first of all, Nick, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all the coverage. It's great. And, we're really excited for the season. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge in the preseason just because there were I believe it was 12 or maybe it was 14 teams that still had football guys going as of this weekend, and we were one of them. And our team is just stacked with football guys. There's, I believe, 8 of the guys that play football are on our team, and many of them play a real crucial role with the varsity. So it'll take a little bit. They're great athletes, but it always takes a little transition over to a different sport. But these are guys that are, for the most part, seniors that many of them have been starting now this will be their 3rd year. Cohen will be his 4th year starting. So we're going to rely on some of the know-how and leadership and understanding of what we do as they're getting their basketball legs underneath them.
Yeah, I feel like with Mainland this year in particular, with the football team, of course, coming off the state title on Sunday, a lot of those guys, as you just mentioned, like a Cohen Cook, a Jamie Tyson, I know guys like Rocco DiBiaso and Stephen Ordili also on the roster. Just then them coming in, they have that championship mentality. They were part of a successful basketball team for you guys last year, 24-4, got to the Cal semis, and of course the South Jersey Group 3 semifinals as well. But as we were just talking during the pre-show, those guys could not be missed. They were already in the gym on Monday, day right after winning a football state title, first one in school history, and they're already on the hardwood, changing out the pads for basketball shorts.
Yeah, I thought for sure all of those guys would be probably out of school. Just I know it's a great day to all your classmates and the teachers and staff at Mainland congratulating you, but at the same time, they just played 2 hours away. They didn't get home till I don't even know what time it was after the little parade that was thrown for them and the celebrating that they did. And they still came in and a few of them came to practice. We didn't let them do anything that day, but they were there just to be there and be a presence. And for a collection of some of the nicest kids in the building, these guys are animals. I mean, they really are. They just want to compete. It wouldn't matter if it was, cards, if it was basketball this season, football last season, baseball or track next season. They just like to play and get after it and have an outcome that hopefully is winning, but that, they want to compete. And that's a great thing when you have a whole group like that. And it's contagious. You mentioned like Rocco, Johnny Franchini's in our program, Colt Russo, Andrew Gilman. Those are football players that are in the sophomore class that have now seen these guys that are seniors for a few years or a couple of years anyway. And it's rubbing off on them. It's a great thing to have in your program, even if it's going to take a couple of weeks to get their basketball legs underneath them.
No doubt about that. Obviously, the recovery from football is a little bit different compared to other sports, especially with all the hitting and the physicality that the game brought, of course, over 14 games this year. Just speaking to your team as a whole, and I know you guys were really good last year, made a nice run, of course, fell short to EHC in the Cal tournament, the semifinals, who went on to go to the state title game. And then in the South Jersey Group 3 semis to Morristown, very low scoring, but a hard-fought loss right there in the playoffs. But a lot of senior talent, and this is why I mentioned how there's a parallel, I would say, between you guys and the football program, not only because there are a lot of football guys, but you prided yourself in this program on developing a lot of talent, playing guys early, and now this senior class has an opportunity to make, I would think, another deep run here in 23-24.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. And you mentioned the parallel with football. That would be wonderful. They did an amazing job, and like you said, Chuck played a lot. Chuck Smith, that is, played a lot of guys early in their high school careers, and it really paid off. And last year they really were just a breath away from going on and competing in a state title. One or two plays go differently in that Millville game that they had last year. We felt the same way. We got beat at the buzzer by a tremendous shot against Moorestown on our court. If that doesn't go, who knows? Maybe we're hosting a South Jersey Group 3. But it was what it was. And so now, just like the Millville game for a lot of those guys that sat with them all year and kind of ruminated, and hopefully it's been a motivating factor to get back out and see if we can, go win another one. Mainland doesn't have a whole lot of South Jersey championships. They've got 2 in our school's history, and it sure would be nice to put up another banner.
Yeah, it sure seems like Moorestown is going to be another one of your top competitors within that playoff group. I know you guys won the Cal just a couple of years ago as an 8 seed, obviously, and you knocked off then number 1 EHC en route to a tremendous conference title. So this group seems to have that type of championship mentality, at least on the court as well, in addition to football with the football-heavy roster that you guys have. But I like the way you guys play, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a high-scoring type of team. You're very physical. You can really get after it on defense. But I noticed the returning production this year. You already mentioned Cohen Cook, who is just an otherworldly athlete for 3 programs, actually, at Mainland. And then Tim Traveline as well, your other leading scorer from last year, is also back. Just speak to those 2 guys and how they really get that offense going for the Mustangs this season.
Right. So Cohen, he's arguably the best athlete that's ever been through our school. And I say that, I mean, if he's been now for multiple years, he will be, you can make an argument, he's one of the 2 or 3 best football players. He's one of the 2 or 3 best all-around baseball players because he can play truly every position. And he's been our best basketball player. He's so dynamic on both ends of the court. He's probably, I say both ends of the court, he's probably at his best in transition. He can play outside. He can play inside. But we wouldn't be able to get it done if it was just Cohen. I mean, Timmy, he is a heck of a talent. And while some people in the Cal and around South Jersey may know about him a bit, I don't know that too many realize just how talented he is. When the football guys were finding their legs last year, he carried us early in the season. Some of those games where you have coaches like, Moorestown's coach, and you have Scott Holden at Lower Cape May held Cohen to low numbers. Timmy busts out and has his big games and keeps us right there afloat, if not winning those games. So he's a tremendous basketball player as well. And then, there's other guys also surrounding him. You got an athlete like Jamie Tyson, who's both ends of the court. He's a defensive stud. Right, he takes charges. He gets all the boards. He'll play oftentimes the best offensive player on the other team. Try and keep those other guys out of foul trouble. And you throw Stephen Ordilli, who's just got that toughness that's hard to teach, if not impossible to teach. He just brings it naturally. Rocco, Keaton Lowenstern. So there's a lot surrounding those guys. Those are the 2 guys on offense. There's no doubt, because they can do a little bit of everything. They're both shooters. They're both scorers around the rim. They both handle the ball. They're both good in transition. And the other guys chip in offensively where they can, when they can. But defensively is sort of what makes us, that creates our offense. And all of those guys buy in and love playing defense.
Mainland basketball head coach Dan Williams with me here on the Cal One-on-One podcast on Cape Atlantic Live. Coach, just last year, and I know, again, the season, unfortunately, for almost every single team in the state of New Jersey ends with a loss, whether it's a tournament, whether it's a playoff game. You guys did make a nice run last year. But again, 24-4 overall, nothing to scoff at. How do you excel off of last year? Now, again, you have a lot of your core back here in 23-24. And again, it's very similar to what the football program went through this year. You fell short, and now use that as fuel. Are you doing similar things where you use that Morristown loss as fuel, or do you kind of say, we're going to use it as a whole because we have a good group back?
Right. No, it's definitely like sat with us So it's definitely fuel. That particular game, the Haddonfield game, we lost by a point. And the HT game, I mean, they kind of, when it was all said and done, it was, it wasn't a point or two. They really ran away with it at the very end there, and deservedly so. But those 3 games in particular are really sort of motivating factors these guys have been thinking about and talking about. And we're not trying to put an emphasis on what the record is, the amount of wins. What we're really looking to do is we have a few goals, and that is first to be as competitive as we can be and hopefully win our conference. And when I say all this, none of this is a given. I know that, our guys know that, but nonetheless, that's a goal of ours. We really want to get back into compete for the Cal finals. And then, group 3 will be tough because you would assume that last year was a kind of quirky with Camden Eastside right at the very end of their regular season there, having, unfortunately, that fight up at Camden, and then they're out of it. They certainly would have been, I would say, the favorites. And they very well might be again, but that's our goal, is to win those 3 things. You want to have a good record so that you can have the best seed as possible, but the record piece isn't what we're after. It's just to see if we can go actually win some championships there. So that's what's fueling us, those 3 things. And if you were fortunate enough to get through South Jersey, the rest would be a little bit of gravy, but that's what we've been talking about since last March.
We'll get a little bit more into the bigger goals and, of course, winning the Cal in just a second. So I picked up on some before, how you mentioned how you were preparing this team in the preseason a little bit more difficult because, again, you are there's a lot of crossover with all the football guys who are a big part of your rotation and, of course, a lot of starters as well. When you look at the thinning of the roster in layman's terms in the preseason, how difficult is it to get the team going in the preseason ahead of scrimmages without a lot of your key guys who basically have to wait until football's over until they can even get back on the court? And even you said on Monday, you didn't even let those guys do anything. You basically just said, just watch, rest for a second, and kind of get your legs back underneath you.
Yeah, it's tough. Every group that goes that far where it sort of then trickles over into basketball, they think, well, we've gone that far because we're such good athletes that it won't be us. It won't affect us, but it always does, right? It's just a different type of conditioning. The beating and the pounding that their bodies have taken, it's just different, right? It's like you mentioned at the top of the program, it is a physical sport. As much as basketball is physical, it doesn't compare to the physicality of football. So it's going to take a bit. We're going to have to rely on, like I said, a Timmy Traveline or maybe a Nicky Rogers to get hot in a game. Some of these guys that Keaton Lowenstern that don't play football and have been working out on their own, working out together, playing travel basketball, doing things like that in the fall to get ready for the season. And then the other guys can come in and really do what they do. We're sort of targeting. We always play up at, or we have for the last several years up at Southern in terms of our holiday tournament. And we're sort of targeting that as the date we'd like to see everyone like back to 100% basketball mode. We know that whether it's Bridgeton on opening night, Cinnaminson, Hamilton, Timber Creek, the 4 games we have before the break, that they're going to be tough. Just because, they're tough games. I mean, you have Cinnaminson had a fantastic record, has the Harveys on their team. And, you have a point guard like Hamilton has. They're always going to be in games, and Timber Creek is an athletic team. So we'll go into those, and our goal is to, compete like heck in those games. If we win, great. If we don't win, so be it. We're targeting that period right after Christmas that, like, all right, guys, this is where we need you. And from then on out, we're all in basketball mode. We're in basketball, shape, conditioning. We've gotten enough shots up and touches on the ball. And these guys too, they're good friends off the court. Like the dynamic with all of them, they pal around all the time. So they know what they're doing on the court, like all the essential elements of finding each other. We're not worried about that whatsoever. It's just about not having been in this situation for myself and our staff. Like, just at what pace do you bring them along so that hopefully come late December and January 1st and on, they're in great shape. So that's been a little bit of our, what we're trying to figure out.
No doubt. And of course, that is a little bit into the future. And of course, the season has not tipped off yet. But when you look at the depth of the Cal this year, again, EHC, a lot of roster turnover from last year's state finalist group. You guys bring a lot back. I know other teams like St. Augustine Prep are always going to be in the thick of things at the top of the conference as well. How do you look at the depth of the Cal this year? I know it's different for football because there is no more actual Cape Atlantic League, but for basketball, it's still one of the better leagues down here in South Jersey, and it is very deep. Do you expect that same type of competitiveness from basically top to bottom here in 23 and 24?
I do. There's going to be, some really good teams in the league for sure. I don't know that depth goes all the way through, but you have like middle is back, right? I think it's fair to say they're back. They've got their guys. Lamar's done a great job of keeping the guys in his district. They know who he was, right? As a player, they know who he is as a coach. They have total buy-in and respect there. So they're going to be really tough. Each T, I know they have a lot of turnover, but it's a huge school with a lot of athleticism. A lot of talent there. So, even with the new guys in place, I know they'll be tough. Obviously, St. Augustine, there's a reason he's got 5,000 wins or whatever he has. I mean,
maybe 7,000, but who's counting?
Yeah, exactly. Scott does an awesome job down at lower. Right, they're always one of our toughest competitors. Not just a great guy, but he does a great job. I don't love the fact that he's got his brother on the bench with him because, man, that guy can coach too. It's a little unfair, but and they have two guards back that are fantastic. Right. And it's a guard. It's awesome to have big guys, but it's a guard league. Yeah. And that's why a team like Hamilton as well. They've got an unbelievable, one of the best athletes in South Jersey, if not in the state. Who's a pretty darn good point guard as well, who can keep them in a lot of games. So they'll be certainly a tough team. I would be lying if I said I knew exactly who St. Joe's and Wildwood Catholic have, but just based on tradition and the fact that, they can bring in guys from a lot of different places, you have to imagine they're going to be very, very tough to go through. Millville, he's doing a really good job up there. Their best guard is back. I know I believe they lost the big kid, but they have a lot of athletes that are back. I mean, look at kind of like Mainland, look at their football program. Some of those kids, play both. So they understand how to win as well as bring that athleticism to the table. So it's not a walk in the park going through our league for sure.
Not at all. So you guys open up 12-14. That's December 14th at home against Bridgeton. Scrimmages start Monday. Mainland head coach Dan Williams with me here on the Cal 101 podcast. Coach, appreciate the time. As always, looking forward to talking to you throughout the winter. Good luck this season. We'll obviously be in the gym on Cape Atlantic Live, seeing what you guys are made of this year. Hopefully a nice long run for you guys and giving us a lot of excitement on the air.
Yeah, I hope so. I really appreciate you having me, Nick. Happy to come on anytime.
Absolutely. Dan Williams,
get Holden and I on together.
now that would be like one of those embrace debate shows, I would say. So
maybe we'll throw John Bruno in too, but I don't want to debate Bruno. But
that's gonna be one of those roundtables where I'm the host and I just kind of let the action unfold right there. I'll sit back and enjoy.
Right.
Dan Williams, Mainland Regional Basketball, right here on Cal 101. Be sure to keep it locked here for more content right here on Cape Atlantic Live.